It's been a while since I've hosted. I gotta get the fucking voice going.
You make sure to peak. That's what Depp does. He instantly peaks every
Yeah, yeah.
episode.
Make sure to just scream into the mic for the intro. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Do the Loki laugh from DKO.
I didn't hear what it sounded like.
I just did it, Riggs. I literally did the laughing. Like, I don't know what it fucking sounds like.
Motherfucker.
Start the episode.
Welcome, challengers, to Battleground of the Gods, a Smite podcast. Joining me today, your host, Riggs, is Fro Double G,
What's up, everybody?
Blaze McBain,
Yayo.
and we have a very special guest today. I have a full little intro for him right now.
Oh,
so you may know our guest today as the Maxonomic Chair Guy.
God.
He is also a huge Cincinnati Bengals fan.
Mm.
He's also one of the casters for the SPL, and most recently, he was crowned the most handsome man in the Smite community, the one and only Dolson.
I don't know about 2 or 3 of those things, but I'll accept the rest of them. Definitely Bengal. Oh, I got it all on right now. This is great. I got the camera
Joe
upside
Burr.
down, the Joe Burr shirt, the Joe Burr glasses. Happy to be here, guys. Always down to talk some Smite. So excited to get into the show.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we met at Worlds a little bit briefly.
Yep.
I'm sure you met a ton of people. Kind of talked about it. We are the longest running Smite podcast. Got to make sure to drive that into the ground.
Of course.
Nah. So I mean, if anybody out there doesn't know who you are, which if you don't know who Dolson is, I mean, what are you doing? But if anybody doesn't know who you are, I want to give like a brief kind of explanation
You
who you
say
are,
that,
what
but
do you do.
we do
I
have
think.
one co-host who's kind of sitting out because he's like, I don't really know this Dolson guy, so I'm not going to be
Yeah, fair
here.
enough.
That is fair.
Hey, fair enough. Yeah. So I mean, I guess you probably have listeners who are like purely Smite game type consumers, I guess. So
Few and far
for those
between,
of
but
you
we
who are
do.
just the Smite game consumers, I do commentary for the Smite pro scene. That's the simple way of putting it. On top of that, videos, ads, bunch of stuff behind the scenes as well. But I'm the on-camera guy for esports and games, and that's how I always boil it down.
I feel like that's probably the most like the best way you can simplify it. It's like, hey, what do you do? I'm the esports guy.
Yeah, I'm the esports dude. Yeah, I mean, casters, I wouldn't say we wear a lot of hats. We wear some hats, but there is a lot of creative process stuff behind the scenes. There's a lot of video formulating and stuff. We have a video team. They're all very talented, script writing, and we have a constant kind of think tank of ideas, I feel like, going on at any given time. And casters are a big part of content creation and those ideas. And so the simple way, yeah, is I'm just the dude who yells about the games. But yeah, the whole team, we do a lot of different stuff, especially in the off season when we don't have actual games going on. This is where we got to get a bit more creative with our time. We're planning things up for season 10, and we want to change around the structure of the show, and we've got to do streams and planning out what type of content we want to do this year. So, really in the first few months of the year is when the on-camera guy stuff is less, and the setting the stage for the rest of the year is sort of where the caster role changes. Because we get that a lot, because when we're not on camera, it seems like there's just nothing we would be doing, which is a totally fair assumption, I guess, when all you see is the on-camera stuff. But yeah, now this time of year is a lot of planning caster stuff going on, which is nice because I get to enjoy a breather before we really get into things, and it gets chaotic over the next few months.
I'm
Something I
going to
noticed there
assume
is that you
that
called it
casters.
season 10 and not season X.
Like, I don't know.
Is
I
that
still don't
is
know
that what
yet.
it's going to be called now? Is it season 10
I
this
have
season?
I don't know. Admittedly, I have no idea. I have not gotten my brand request on that yet. I have to imagine I'm gonna accidentally use both all throughout the year here this year. Because I was already mixed up in my brain because it's Smite year 10, but SPL season 10 or season X, and like the year and the season thing was like tripping up my brain. I'm a very Ron Burgundy type. I'll say whatever it is you want me to say as far as our brand team goes. I just need a direct, like, this is what we're gonna call it. And we'll probably have those meetings. Well, the SPL playing tournament's in what, like 2 weekends. So
Yeah.
before then, we'll we'll have it ironed out. But as of right now, I could not tell you.
I love the season
What
X
were you
idea.
what were you
It
gonna say,
makes me
Fred?
hype.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm going to proceed assuming that casters are much like teachers. They don't actually do anything outside of school. They're like NPCs
Oh, yeah,
who
dude.
just
Yeah,
sit
yeah.
there waiting for the next
Right.
interaction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
class ends and they just sit in the classroom waiting for
Yeah,
the
Mhm.
next day. They don't,
See
they
you
don't have
That's
to do
tomorrow.
anything.
definitely
Just waves
yeah,
for
that's
12
definitely what
hours.
some of my students think for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
at the studio right now in the green room.
Yeah.
I have a cot underneath the analyst desk that I sleep
Mhm,
on.
mhm.
And that's it.
I mean,
There's never going
you
home.
did sleep in the studio, so
I did. I sure did sleep in the studio. That was like the worst night of sleep. The problem is for the lighting to be right, they had to aim like one of the stage lights right at me.
Oh
And
no.
I haven't slept with like an eye cover or anything, and so I'm laying on this air mattress in the middle of the sound stage with the spotlight on my face, and I'm like wrapping my eyes in like a blanket. I'm like trying to sleep, and by the time I actually went to sleep, I only got like 4 hours. Like we all wanted to we got to pick and choose our flights on that day to get out to Worlds. And I just wanted to get there, so I chose like a 9 a.m. flight. I just want to get out there. We don't have sound check or anything that day, but it was sort of just a settle in, tour the venue, and sort of relax before things kick off. And so I chose the early one, and that was my own doing. What I didn't realize, and it's a good thing actually, that this happened, but our office manager schedules all of our shuttles and stuff, and so a shuttle came to pick us up at like 5 in the morning or something like that. And in my brain, I'm thinking I get to the airport like an hour before my flight if it's a 9 a.m. flight, and I'll totally be fine. But it ended up being like a chaotic morning. And so, as terrible of a night of sleep as I got because I had to wake up early, it was actually totally the correct call. Will I sleep in the studio again? Probably. If people want, if people want me to do it, I'm a sucker for content, and so I'd be open to it again. It wasn't so terrible that I would never do it, but it was not a good night of sleep. I'll say that much. Luckily, the hotel was cozy, and so I got to catch up over the next few days.
yeah,
The
maybe next
only
time they have like a
person out here
backlight
saying
on
they
you instead of a
caught
light
up on sleep
directly
during Worlds.
shining onto you.
Right.
What was that for?
I said he's the only person that said he got caught up on sleep during Worlds.
Oh
Yeah, that's a that's a relative that's a relative term though. I think caught up relative to that night. Yeah, I don't know. Still by the end of that weekend. I mean, I slept for like 2 straight days by the time I got home. Because that was, so much fun. And so this isn't like a complainy thing. It's just our schedules were, I did the red carpet thing with Kelly a couple of the days, and so that started at like 9 because the show and all that went. I think we started funneling people in around 10. Maybe the game started at 10. So I had to be there for like hair and makeup at like 7:30, and the adrenaline after each day is still really high, and so I'm not going to bed until midnight, 12:30, 1 a.m. And I didn't do the whole going out thing until the day after, or to Sunday night. um Sort of this weird balance where I was completely exhausted and sleep deprived because I was waking up so early and going to bed so late, but once I'm actually in there, I get a cup of coffee in me and I eat a little food. Sort of the atmosphere made it a lot easier to be awake and almost shrug off the fact that I slept for like 2 or 3 hours less than I normally do. So it ended up not feeling terrible until I got home and the weight was off and the post-world sadness really set in, and then I just didn't want to leave bed. And that was my life for like 3 or 4 days. And I feel like a lot of people had that though. What you get home from Worlds and you're like, man, what now? And you kind of just like sit and be sad
Yeah.
about it. And so I felt like a sense of community where everyone was feeling that way, and that at least made me feel close to others.
Yeah, this was that was my first in-person Worlds. I know that
Yeah.
Fro had gone before. I don't know about you, Dolson. Was that your first in-person one
I
working it?
So I worked so this would have been season 6 of Smite. It would have been DreamHack Atlanta when SK won.
That's
I
right.
was
Yeah.
I was on Paladins at the time. I was doing like stage interviews for Smite. Um like the post game interviews. Actually, it was really funny because that was my first in-person esports event ever. I had attended season 5 Worlds when they were trying to get me to like come in and work in the future. They're like, "Look how cool all this is." And so I had attended season 5 just on the Sunday, I think. Season 6, I worked as a member of the Paladins caster team because remember we kind of split time, Paladins in the morning, Smite in the afternoon, on that one stage. Um, and it was my first like in-person big stage interview, and I think I did well. But the first time I interviewed Captain Twig, and I was a member of the Paladins team, but the first time I ever did a Smite interview was a post-game interview with Twig after Rival had won one of their sets. And I kind of reach out with the mic, and Twig like takes it from my hand, like steals the mic, which is, to the average viewer, it's not that big of a deal, but it's like you're not supposed to let the person like just have the mic. And I'm so new to all this, I didn't really realize that, but I knew it was kind of a mess up. And so I remember you can like see my face like die inside, and I'm just like nodding, and I'm red face like trying to recover. It was my first in-person Worlds though this year, as a member of the actual Smite casting team. It was a long time coming. Thank God we had it. We all needed it. Um, and I think it exceeded expectations in a lot of ways for myself. And it's hard to capture that feeling and really boil it down into an essence, but that's one of the it's a core memory, for lack of a better term, for myself, for I think for all the other casters, and I imagine for a lot of the folks who actually went to Worlds. There's just something about it this year where it felt very big and exciting and sort of a finally we're back type of thing, and I think it was just so important.
I was say I was
Yeah,
at
like I said, it was
home, but it was still awesome. Like even at
Yep.
home,
Yep.
I couldn't arrange stuff for my kids to be able
Cool.
to go. But like, yeah, the whole like stew debacle, like
I
in
said
chat
coup.
was
I said
probably my
coup.
favorite thing. I'm like, well, like, but no, it's like there's coup and stew, and then there's all these people like, oh my god, they're
And there's
booing them, and I'm like, no, dude, like, like listen back, I promise they're not booing. And then I thought I was the dumb one. I was like, wait a
right.
minute, there's all these people that are
nah, dude.
like
Well, okay,
saying that
Blaze.
it's
Let's not
boo on
start
Twitter. I'm
assuming
like,
too
no, no,
much
no, no.
here.
Yeah, it's fine, it's fine.
Like
But it was,
like in the NFL, dude. You got like Green Bay Packers legend John Coons, a little bit of a throwback, dude.
yeah,
That's
Could
right.
do a little fullback dive. Cool.
That's right.
yep.
But yeah, no, that was my first Worlds in person,
Oh,
and
nice.
it was super cool to just be like the atmosphere. It's like it's one of those things where you go to like a Worlds or like a convention or anything, and you're around like-minded people, and
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to just like everybody that is there for the same reason as you. So it's like you could just talk to people, and you don't have to feel weird about it. Like everyone
Right.
it's like you said, it's like a big community. So it was really cool to be in person for that. I met Fro, met Nev, who's not here. Met a lot of people that I wanted to meet. He
Nev says
mentioned
hi.
Twig. He's been my favorite player ever since I started watching SPL back in like season 1.
Yeah.
And I waited in that Kings meet and greet, and I posted a picture in this Discord. If you go to the text channel for it, I made a sign that said Captain Twig has a massive cock, and
Uh-huh.
and
Did it
got
get
him to take a
through?
picture with me.
It got
It
through
did get
the
through.
I guess I
Yeah.
don't know. They probably don't check signs or whatever. That's funny though.
Nah. And
Oh my god.
when they won, I ran up to the stage. I was holding it up there. I don't know if anybody
Nice.
saw it. I know some people in the crowd were reacting to it, but it was a super fun time.
I think that's such a good story with Twig and his whole journey. I mean, to come so close so many times, and he's always been such a professional about things and such a good teammate. Yeah, the it felt the one video that I guess our video team had put together after Worlds. It was like a week after Worlds. and it was to that "Don't You Forget About Me" song, like the Breakfast Club song. In Twig, it's like they put that to the ending of the Kings' final game, and it like goes black and white, and Twig like thrusts the hammer into the air. It is like one of the best videos. It just brings a smile to my face every time. I know, there are a lot of Kings fans just in general, but by the time the tournament went on, I think a lot of fans of teams who had been knocked out ended up rooting for the Kings because of Twig, and just wanting to see him finally win the ring, and they did it. And it was, even though I'm cursed with my finals, 3-0 last year, 3-0 this year, I still enjoy, the good story and the Kings and their run, and really Twig finally getting it done was able to kind of cover up the fact that it was such a speedy few games there on that Sunday, at least for me. Because as casters, you want it to go all five. I want, even though it's exhausting and my voice would have been gone. I casted 2 quarterfinals. I wanted both those to go to 3. I casted the Kings versus the Bolts semifinal. I wanted that to go to 5, and I want finals to go to 5 because that game 5 is like nothing else. And I'm a cursed boy when it comes to my Worlds casts, I think. But got some great moments, and being there with fans as casters, sort of regardless of how the games turned out, it was really easy to get sucked in and get invested. And a quick 3-0 one way or the other didn't really end up mattering because it was still just so energetic and so exciting. But yeah, watching Twig win was a whole lot of fun, and I know that he had some fans there. I met his parents, and his parents are just super nice, and his mom told me, she like jokingly told me how mad she gets at me because I'm so good, in her words, at like making the games really intense and nerve-wracking, I guess, like in the big moments. And she's like, I have to leave the room when you're talking in the close game.
That's awesome.
You just make me so nervous. And I'm like,
The
I'm
mom
sorry,
who doesn't really know
in a
what's
way,
going
that's like
on.
a backwards way of saying I do a good
Yeah, it's
job.
like a backhanded compliment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
She's not able to actually like see what's going on in the game or like tell what's going on in the game too much, so she
Right.
just has to go off your
Right.
hypeness, and she's like, I can't take it, the anxiety.
Right, she hears good Kings yelling, and then she can come back into the room, was my read. Other than that, it's got to be somewhere else. Yeah, I can't. Worlds are so important for so many reasons. I think for me, one of the coolest things is meeting the pro parents, um, and in how supportive they are of their kids, and them chasing their dreams, and playing pro games. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed when the Warriors were playing in the quarterfinals, like Neil Ma's mom was like running around trying to hype up the crowd, and
Yeah.
Robin Ma, Neil's dad, was there, and him and I talk on Twitter sometimes, so it was like kind of fun to meet them. Mike's dad loves giving me crap, and then I got to meet him, and it's just sort of it's really cool to see this unique parenting perspective where it's almost the same as like supporting their kids at a sporting event. They're playing soccer, football, whatever in school, but now they're just playing pro games. But it's a little different because the parents still don't fully, completely understand exactly what's going on.
Yep.
In the same way they might
Yeah.
understand like football or soccer or whatever. But there are a few that have like really gotten a good grasp. I think I think Mike's dad actually has a pretty good understanding of Smite and how it works. Like he'll tweet about drafts and stuff like that, and he'll talk about when the Dragons lost in semifinals. I remember I talked to him the next day, and he was kind of nitpicking a few things that he noticed that the Dragons were doing wrong or whatever. And I don't know if that's like things Mike had said to him that he then kind of echoed out or whatever, but
Yeah.
he said it with confidence, and I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. So
I
I
was gonna
think
give a shout out
for
to
Worlds, that was
Bronic's
really cool.
mom too.
Yeah, Baronic's
Bronic's mom's
super
super
supportive.
into it.
Yep.
We have to shout out Nev's dad too.
I was
she's
just
not
gonna
here,
say Nev's
but
dad.
he I was gonna say he watched Worlds and was like never really watched like Pro Smite before, and was like making predictions and was right.
Really.
No,
Nice.
Nev's dad doesn't
and I
even
think that's
play
awesome.
Smite. Like, knows nothing.
Yeah. That's one thing I was gonna say, Dolson, is like my wife recently started watching some Smite with me over Worlds because she knows I love casting and I love just watching it. And one day she's like, "Who's that guy? And is he that tall, or is everybody else really short?" And I was like, "No, Dolson's just tall, man."
Yeah, I got a lot of that.
But she's the same way. Like when you hype cast, like she's like way more interested
Sure.
than I have with some of the other casters. And I love all the casters, but like when you're casting for chair 1, she'll be like, "Oh, so this is what's happening?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "There's a lot that goes on in Smite."
Yeah.
She goes,
You
"I
know,
understand why you play it now."
I think I got sort of lucky with my to that note. I think I kind of got lucky with my casting is very personality based, of course, and
Mhm.
so a lot of that comes out with me when I cast. Now that I've actually gotten comfortable, I was very nervous and balled up when I first started Paladins and I first started casting. I was like very regimented and strict, and when I first started Smite, I was super nervous, and eventually I kind of come out of my shell. Um, I think I got. I promise there's a point here. I got lucky not knowing the game at all when I first started casting. And I think I got lucky in that sense because when I was actually asking questions and trying to lead the conversation in certain directions, it's because I like genuinely didn't know or
Mhm.
like I like didn't know what was going on. And now I understand it a lot better and I can really read the flow of the game and that feels a lot more natural to me. But I think I like built my casting style with Smite so early on, being someone who had played League of Legends for like years and like so I knew MOBAs and how they worked and I had a general understanding of Smite and how it worked, but learning the characters, their abilities, the items, all that sort of stuff, all the interactions, who's good early, who's good late, what's this lane matchup, like none of that I had no idea. Um at least to a very small degree. And so like I kind of built this structure where I have to ask questions and I have to lead conversation and I have to describe the action in a very specific way because that's like the only way I know how to do it because I don't know anything else. Um, and so while I'm a bit more free flowy now and I know a lot more about the game and am able to read it a lot better, I think the way and I guess my ability to describe and like drive conversation actually ends up coming from a place where I didn't know much and I was like I was grasping at straws and I like had to ask a million questions just to sort of figure things out and really understand how things are going. And yeah, I don't know the big intense moments. That's what casters dream of. And I think it's sort of a unique balance, almost along the same thread, where I'd say I'm above average at the game. I'm not amazing. I'm not terrible. I'm like slightly. I'm probably like firmly like a plat, maybe very low or high 5 or 4 level diamond type player. I'm somewhere in that little pocket. Um, and so everything the pros do is cool to me because it's all so
Yeah.
amazing and like to me, like, oh my god, I could never do that. And so like it's real genuine excitement and like when the moments I need to stop doing it, but like my like I'm scared bit was like actually me being like I'm nervous. Like, oh my god,
Yeah.
we're minutes into this game and a fire like I'm like genuinely freaked out. And that's a bit overplayed, so I'm moving on from that this year. But when I watching the pros do their thing, it's so easy to get excited because for me, I'm like, I could never do that, and I genuinely think it's
Mhm.
cool. It could be a run of the mill play for them, but uh, for us average Smite players, a lot of that stuff is really neat, and so I think that's helped with my emotion and description and all of that when it comes to casting.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
think
think one
this
of
makes
our
it
Well,
pretty
old
cool.
co-hosts said once that the game just flows and bends differently around pro players, and it,
100%.
Yeah,
it generally seems to. And I don't know what it is. Their skill and their knowledge of the game is just it. But they're on a whole nother level. They're pros. Like it's crazy.
yeah,
And until you like play with one, it it's hard to describe. But it's weird.
I always talk about I got in a match and it was like, oh, it was Paul,
oh, nice.
Aurora, and like it's the whole crew. It's their whole team minus Benji. They have Freya. We're playing in this like little tournament that they're hosting, and we're all hyped. We're like, oh, we're gonna get pro players. We're like, we're gonna get rolled, but this is gonna be fun. And I remember I saw Paul half health on Hell, and I was like, surely with a crit build,
Yeah,
I
you're
could kill
gone.
this man.
Oh yeah.
No, I stepped up. I don't even think I landed the auto. I don't even I did. Doesn't matter. He was full health by the end of the fight. I was dead on the gray screen. And I was like, that was really awesome. I was like, that was super sick.
I forgot. I think I was streaming, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and Aurora like came into the stream and he's like, "Yo, let me run some arena with you guys." and I felt so bad for their team. It was like me, Aurora, Lermy,
Oh
who's
god,
also amazing at the game,
Lermy's cracked.
and like a couple other people. And Aurora's playing like full damage Sylvanas, and he's like hitting 5-man knockups, and like the rest of the team. And then like Lermy's up there like ready for the follow up, and the rest of us are like dinking around in
I'm
base, and
here.
they're like
Yeah.
deciding them
Yeah,
5v2, and I'm it's just a whole nother tier of gaming. And I actually have never seen a more lopsided game of Arena in my life. I felt terrible. Because I clearly the people in that specific instance were not familiar with like Smite Esports, because in the post game lobby they're all arguing with each other about like who
yeah,
went who
yeah.
did wrong, and I'm like, you guys, like, you never
Yeah.
had a chance, like there was just no
Yeah.
way, like, because if you
Aurora,
know it's a roar, you're like, I'm fine to get bodied by a roar. That was a cool experience.
he played
These poor
Anubis
people are like
support
trying to analyze. It was he did, and
in the game.
I'm
He
sure it
bopped
worked.
me, by the
Sure,
way.
it looked good. And I'm sure it
Yeah.
looked good.
Yeah,
I
I
was like,
remember
he
the
locked
time.
Anubis, and I was like, I don't like this. And then I died, and I was like,
Yeah,
that
right,
was pretty cool.
right.
I
Pretty
was
cool.
I was playing an assault a couple weeks ago against Derpy Bear, Barracuda, oh, and who the hell was their buddy? It's another one of their friends. I'm drawing a blank.
Oh,
But
like Ghost or something probably. I know they
yeah,
play with him a lot.
I don't remember who it was, but yeah, it's one of the people they play with, and like I told my team, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a rough match, guys. We got Bear out on the enemy team, and then my team was like, who's that? I'm like, just watch out for the Cabrakan. Just watch out.
Yep.
That's all I gotta
Right.
say.
Yeah,
I
keep
think
your
the
eyes
worst part
peeled.
too is how casual they make it look. Like I primarily play like solo jungle, maybe support, and also I'll watch a lot of like the pro player streams and stuff. I'll watch like Haddix, and he's just like talking about food, or he's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna order some like food later, and while he's like solo like 1v2ing them, their jungler, and he's just like, yeah, oh, the Chick-fil-A is not that good. I don't know if I'm gonna get that.
Right.
And it's just like 1v2.
Triple
I'm like,
kill.
what are you doing? That's
Yeah,
the worst part. It makes me feel
I've
so
noticed
bad.
that with like I've been streaming my ranked grind, and like when I'm
I've
in
watched a
game,
little bit.
I can't like break away from like the game and the stream, or the game that's going on itself. I feel so bad because I pay like half attention to chat and the rest of the stream, and so I can't fathom being so good and so casually that good. You're reading chat, you're buying items on an instant, you're not thinking about it. It's just obvious that this is what you need to be doing, and it's just like an extension of your brain that allows you to then use that brain space to like be a good streamer and address chat and talk about whatever you want. Because I've got to put like all of my mental into it, or else
Yeah.
I'm like getting diffed 100% of the time. Um, yeah, Haddock strikes me as that type of dude. I could see him doing that like while like actual SPL games are going on, especially like that Bolts team with like how silly they were with one another
Oh,
when he was part
100%.
of that squad. I could see them talking about God knows what, um, while the games were happening, because they went on like a pretty good winning streak a couple years ago. Yeah, that's he gives me very casually incredibly good aura, uh, from Haddix, and I think he reminds us of it all the time. It's he's an intimidating player, both on stream and on SPL.
Then you have the opposite side of that. You have Genetics, who's like
That's right.
macroing every single thing. He's like, oh yeah, if I'm gonna steal the mini off this purple buff, I'm gonna hit level 5, one minion before them, then I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna kill them. It's just easy. And then I'm just like, what?
Yeah, you're
Right.
like, what just happened? He's playing 4D chess in Smite, while the rest of us are just like, man, it'd be really cool if I get my purple buff this rotation.
Right, I'm getting invaded again, and I'm
Yeah,
tired of it.
again. Yeah.
Right.
My personal favorite thing to do in Smite right now, and I've been doing this for the past year, I'm like, hey, chat, watch this. It's going to be sick. And then I just instantly die. Like,
Oh,
I
God.
feel like I'm about to do something
Hey,
really
chat,
good.
watch
and
this
then-
is
and
always
then
a bad thing to say.
And I immediately die. Immediately die. I have clips of it where it's like, hey, chat, watch this. I'm 1v2. It looks like it's going my way. And then like a cuckoo sneezes on me and I'm dead. And I'm like, oh, man, that was super sick. Never mind.
Should have calculated better.
Yeah. My
So
math brain didn't want to work.
sounds like we're getting into some games. So I'll kick it over to Blaze. You have any games you want to talk about this week? Any
Yeah.
bangers? Any bad ones?
Yeah, I got some bad ones. I got some real bad ones. That's where we'll start. I played in Albion Giants League Smite, and the enemy team DMs me on Monday, and they're like, "Look, we can play Monday and we can play Wednesday." And I was like, "All right, sick. I'm out Wednesday. My team can't play. But let's see what we can do for this, 12 hours from now type of deal." And play with 2 subs. And game 1, we just get rickrolled. I mean, like, it was bad. We just bought into everything that their comp wanted. They're like, they lock Alderaan. I'm like, surely we grab Fenrir for this man. And that was our first mistake, because anytime we wanted to engage, Fenrir died. So game 1 went really well. We lost really, really bad. Game 2, though.
Well, hold up. You can't say you bought into all the bait and then only say that you picked a Fenrir against Alderaan, because that's what you do generally. Hold up.
Okay, here we go. Okay, Fenrir locked in. Think that's gonna go well?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
They had Alderaan. Who else did they have?
So how'd they fuck your Fenrir?
Dude, they had all range, and like he just could not get in. He jumps in for the stun. He just immediately dies.
You just get blown up. Okay.
Super, super sick. Let me look real quick though.
I was expecting we picked Fenrir for the Alderaan, and they picked a hell and cleansed every Ragnarok, or something like that. Or they went Chiron mid, and then what is it? Masterful archery or whatever.
Comp is Neja, Choo-Choo, Cuckoo, Ganesha, Alderaan. So Fenrir jumps in, gets silenced, dies. Yeah. We had Sylvanas. He just gets silenced and died. We have Surtur. He likes to ult in, and guess what he did? He got silenced and also died.
All right. So it's not necessarily that you they counter picked per se every single character. You just you got out comped for sure.
Yeah. But we were like, oh, surely this is going to be good. And then they locked in Ganesha, and I was like, this is why we should have banned that. Because we talked about banning it, and then we just didn't, which is really normal for us. We're good at that. we got bodied that game. You would think with my coaching ability, we would quit doing that. But as a team, we really just like not to listen to each other from time to time. Again, 2 subs.
Do you guys have a captain?
Yeah, it's me. But that doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
I bring up suggestions, and then they will all agree against me. And I'm like, hey guys, remember when we talked about? They're like, yeah, you were right. And I'm like, okay, at least we know game 1. Game 2, let's figure this out. Our game 2 draft was much better. We had a really good time. In fact, we were winning that game. And then we did my favorite thing, and we saw this in oh my goodness, what's the name of the tournament? The SPL qualifier tournament to get into SPL for the last 2 teams.
Just the promotion tournament.
Yeah.
Play-ins or something.
Play-ins.
Yeah, play-ins. There we go. So we saw this in play-ins where teams would have like a 20k gold lead and then lose, which is really impressive on both sides. and we did that.
God damn, Blaze.
We had this massive gold lead. I think we're up 12k. We push down left tier 1, tier 2, get a Phoenix, and I'm like, leave. Just leave and get the tier 2s. We have Fire Giant, do the right thing. We just take down the tier 2s. We spend all of our gold, and we're just so far ahead, they can't do anything. My team decided that wasn't a good idea, and I know what you're thinking. Who's the shout caller? Me, from ADC. Okay, so that we got that answered already. And they greeted at Phoenix for a kill, and we all died except for one person. And then it went downhill from there. We lost that game too. So really impressive losses this week. Is what we're doing. Other than that, I casted some Smite last night. It went pretty good. Games weren't super crazy or anything. I am excited for tomorrow and Monday. I'm casting Oklahoma State versus Marshall tomorrow and Oklahoma State versus Louisville on Monday. I'm really excited about Collegiate Smite. The Collegiate Smite scene is always super, super fun. So I'm excited about that. Other than that, Nox is Diamond. So we are all Diamond Nox, as promised.
Fuck out of here.
It was Diamond Challenge.
My new favorite challenge. Riggs. I have a build for you though. So I got tired of building damage Nox and making people upset that way because that's not fun. Watching people die to your ult and just tick down slowly and the last tick kills them, that's fun. But it's more fun when you're a tank because the tick is 17 damage. And I watched a Poseidon run away. And the last tick of 17 damage is what killed them. Nobody else hit them. It was just that last tick from the Nox ult, which felt really good. So people kept wanting to build healers. And I said, well, because I'm on this PSA about Divine Ruin, you should build Divine Ruin. It is an item for mages that anti-heals. Please, for the love of God, build Divine Ruin. Someone in new episode chat this week's gonna be like, "Are you still preaching this?" Yes, because people still
It's
aren't.
been
building
years. It's been years.
Yeah, but it's good. It's like really
They gave
good now.
they gave it
Evo
more
type
power than
passive.
another passive. People, fucking buy it. Come on.
Please build it. I'm
What's
going
it
to
gonna
continue
take?
my PSA about if you build tablet in games that I'm casting, I'm going to talk about how you don't have stacks 30 minutes into the game, which means you didn't hit damage.
Dolson's like, yep, been there, seen that.
Help
Yeah, plenty of it.
yourself. Help yourself. But I started building Tainted Steel, Divine Ruin, Contagion, Breastplate, Amulet, Stronghold into Glad Shield, and then upgrading into a Tainted Breastplate. Good time. Good time.
For you and you only.
For my team.
Okay, I guess your team gets to enjoy, not for the enemy team.
On the thing of tablet, I have a rule. If you build tablet or prophetic, I feel like you have the green card to get stacks. Like if I'm not seeing full stacks like 30 minutes in on either of those, what are you doing?
Big agree. That's
Like,
how I play
yeah.
anyway. So I buy those items so I can get away with it. That's my mindset.
Yeah.
Because then
I
if you
tell people-
die, you know, if you dive tower and you die, your teammate's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got a stack.
Right,
I
right,
literally
right.
tell people that.
And it's
I'm like,
worth
if you're building these items, you have to int for them. They're like, but I don't. I'm like, you have 15 stacks on tablet and you've had it for 20 minutes. You kind of need to int for the stacks, please.
I mean, you
Help
don't
me
have
help
to
you.
int, but you have permission to int.
You do.
You have an escape if you int.
I do want to shout out a build, and I want to see. I'm going to help you, Riggs, because you're a solo player. So I'm going to tell you that this is a warrior, and I want you to guess which warrior it is.
Freya.
It's not.
God damn it.
Ornate Arrow.
That was so quick,
Jason
Riggs.
Katana.
That was quick, I gotta say.
Aussie, Demon Blade, Envenom Deathbringer, and Dominance.
Gilgamesh.
No. You want another guess?
Could you start over?
I'm surely it's
Yeah.
not like a Bologna or something, right?
Okay. Ornate Arrow, Hasten Katana,
Mhm.
Aussie,
Mm-hmm.
Demon Blade,
Mm-hmm.
Envenom Deathbringer, Dominance.
All right, so if
I'm
there's someone it
thinking
makes
it's
sense
not
on,
an
you
auto
wouldn't be
type
bringing
warrior.
it
It's gotta
up.
be something
So
stupid.
this is a Cucullin build, if I've ever heard one then.
I wish it was Cucullin. That would
Chalk?
make me feel better about it. Not Chalk.
Okay, then I have no idea.
Yeah,
If it's someone it made sense on, you wouldn't be
Those-
bringing it up.
Achilles.
That would have also been fire. And it was unfortunately a Nike.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, that's sick.
Yep.
And I appreciate when someone locks in like a Nike or something, any god, and they just build something that just doesn't make sense, and they perform well on it. Like that makes me happy because they went 10-8 and 17, so I couldn't be mad at them. While we had a 3-11 Anubis, who was just having a rough time. So that's my games of the week. That's how they went. Lots of L's, but I got some dubs on Nox and a couple Hunters, and it felt okay. Fro, how are your games?
So my games this week, rather short and sweet. I played a decent amount on Wednesday with BMT, Brutal Magalini time. Good old Leaf Warriors, Snort, Nightlock. By the way, we got to schedule them on the podcast. It's been a while. We were just doing random. What was it? Infinite Assault. It's weird. Out of like the 7 games we played, there was a certain set of like 8 gods that got banned every single time. That somehow made it so we couldn't ban actual other toxic shit. Weird. I'm gonna get back up on the soapbox once again and remove fucking healers from any goddamn game mode that has max cooldown. They just remove them from the game mode. That game mode, I'm not saying all MOTDs, but if it's one where you can get 80% motherfucking cooldown, remove the fucking healers. They are taking up our ban slots, and I'm having to deal with Alquashes and Zeuses and other shit that stop the game mode from actually being fun, so me and my friends can't play 5 fucking damage Kepris, okay? Alright.
I mean, you could if you built Divine and can, that might help.
I mean, we did buy a lot of Divines. It's a good item. People buy it. It's a good item. But, yeah, so we dealt with a lot of toxic shit. We were trying to do what we were referring to as Party with Marty, right? As you all noticed, we did name an episode that a couple weeks ago. And that is wholeheartedly again because Flareboot hated the joke. So, Party with Marty, everybody. But we had 5 Martichoruses, Metachoruses, Manichorus, whatever the fuck his name is, and just put grass all over the assault map, right? And like we were like setting paths so we could just like walk around the whole thing, staying invisible, and then just like blasting people that are one from range. It was very fun, rather toxic. That's why we did it. That's with BMT. You gotta kind of you gotta stew in the toxic a little bit, right?
I have a question about the grass pass. Did you guys like make them in order, or do you guys? Because if you connect them, if the corners just touch, you can just walk through the corner, even though your character model is outside of it. You can just walk through the corner.
Right. We did it the best way that 5 idiots can do it. So yes to both. There were corner touchings. There were side by sides. I mean, there's smiley faces. You know, we went through the gambit.
I got you. That's like picking 5 afros and making shapes with the links. Not actually fighting, just making shapes.
Why would you pick 5 afros
with the links?
Did you not?
Because I wanted to make
Did you not just hear my rant?
Lane.
Did you not hear my rant
Yeah,
to start this whole motherfucker?
Blaze,
Blaze! God damn it!
We were trying to make stars and shapes, and that's what we did.
Well, ain't that cute, you
I
bastards?
just made a big wiener out of the grass.
I mean, you laugh, but I do that in MOTD with my wards. Like, if someone comes in and they're like, haha, look, I made a pair of boobs, you can just turn their boobs into a cock on the map. But anyways. People do that in cooldowns on Sundays when they get the, whatchamacallit, the chalice. And they're like, yeah, and I'm like, nope, changing that. Sorry, Dolson, I didn't know if anyone warned you, but this is not a mature podcast by any means.
No, it's all good. It's better that way, right?
But there was we did also attempt to do multiple Artemises. That's toxic, especially since I found out if you go 40% CDR and all 5 of you buy the upgraded med, you can Tusky, pop your meds, all 5 of you, and then Tusky again in like 2 seconds. And if you also, because you're going, you know, you built your full cooldown, which probably means you have Jotuns and Soul Eater or something else that's giving you pen, your Tusky does a shit ton of damage. So, you know, it's pretty cool when you got, you know, 10 Tuskies just going through hitting everybody. It will kill most of the enemy team without them being able to do anything about it. Again, you got to stew in the toxic a little bit when you hang out with BMT. It's great. We also did 5 Ganeshas. Tried and true. Dropping ults, always fun. But that was enough about playing with them boys. I do have some games from last night when I played with good old young Bryce, Goldzillion Beers, and Big Rick. And Trevor was there too. So some of our old co-hosts here that are no longer with us, they were playing some Smite and sent me an invite. Soul is pretty busted in Assault right now with just Mage ADC still being strong. I went like fucking, what was it, 12, 6, and 22, really hurting them. But the other game that I really want to bring up is a game where I was on Maui, right? First off, I remember watching Worlds and how impactful Maui is, right? You know how unimpactful he feels in a lot of Assault games, though? Like, now I say this, but I was wholeheartedly, I went 2, 6, and 31, right? I was getting some fucking assists. But even while getting these assists, I still felt so fucking useless. Like, I made numerous good plays, but still felt worthless. Because I'd charge up my little fish hook, and I'd hit them, and I'd pull them, and I'd pull somebody, and they'd get chunked like 80% of their health. But then just because I'm Maui, I have nothing to follow it up with, and it's like, oh, well, I did hit my 1cc, and we punished the shit out of them for it. I just don't have anything else to contribute, and I feel worthless. But, I'm tossing out my movement speed buff for everybody and giving people prots. Like, I was hitting stuns here and there, but it's an Assault, right? You want to kind of not necessarily leap in all the time. And I whiffed the shit out of my first, 4 ults. Maui ult is one of the few abilities that I have changed off from Instacast to Quick Cast. It did help. But I am just kind of a shitter too, so there's that. Yeah, so Maui somehow made me feel like I was super impactful and completely useless at the same time. It's very, very interesting. Riggs, how are your games?
I just got 2. Had a 33 kill Gilgamesh jungle game in ranked. You think I won that game? No.
Classic.
Did not win that game. Uh, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Not to be the one that's like, where's my backline? But I think we've all had games like that where you're kind of putting in the work, turn around, and your backline is nowhere to be found. And may or may not have outdamaged my entire team combined again. But
Okay, that's good.
that's
We love
neither here
that.
nor there.
That's always a good time.
It's just unlucky, sometimes it's like that.
It's like
Yeah.
the game I talked about last week where I was being accused of inting while I was the only one positive on my team and controlled the T screen. I'm like, I'm somehow inting and I'm not helping. I don't get this.
And Brett Blaze, I know, Dolson, you play a lot of ADC, right? I know I watch a
Yeah,
lot of your streams.
yeah,
ADC.
yeah.
So tell me about this, right? 27-minute game, played Freya, got stuck with ADC. I was like, I'll play Freya. Typically, you don't see Freyas fighting a lot until they get a couple items at least. May or may not have been involved in 32 kills in a 27-minute game.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my
And
god.
from level
That's
3
not
on,
okay.
from level 3 on, there was always at least 3 people in dueling. Whether it
Oh
was
yeah.
mid support ADC, jungle support ADC.
Yeah, that's typical. Just
One time a soul laner TP'd over.
Yeah, that's my favorite. All 5 come over and you're like, oh sick, dude, they're all here. We're partying, but there's no Marty.
Oh no, there was a Marty. It was
well,
me
good for
against a
you.
Marty. And I don't know what that god does. I have not played that god.
Now, when you say there was
damn
3
it.
people in the
all I've
lane,
heard is
do you mean your team or the
all I've
enemy's
heard
team?
is that he just has a lot of burst. But
When you
what's
say
that?
there was 3 people in the lane, do you mean on your side or the enemy side?
Oh, on both sides. It was like a battleground in dueling. It was just a mass. It was like a minefield. There's just dead bodies everywhere.
Because there is advantage
this.
if there's
My
constantly
team's
3.
there too. Good stuff.
Yeah, well, because there
Oh
is
no, yeah, it was both ways. It was like the dueling was the only lane in the map basically. It was like we were playing one big game of like assault and dueling essentially.
Subscribing to that newsletter, dude. That means you get my farm. Oh, sign me up.
Yeah,
I get
I was
damage
gonna
online.
say,
Yeah.
if the enemy
'cause
spends too
typically
much
it's me
time in
against
your
4.
lane, yeah, if they spend so
And
much
that's
time
not
in your
fun.
lane that like there's pressure that your team can apply elsewhere because of that. There's like essentially free farm that you can go steal up and shit. Like it's not always a bad thing to be camped, but
Yeah, surely they're gonna dive my tower and not die to it, but I will. I mean, that's fine.
We ended up winning the game, but I would love to hear the perspective from the solo laners in that game. Just they didn't get any attention the entire game. They're just smacking each other, doing whatever, and then they just constantly see on the duo side of the map, just everyone's just dying on both teams. They're just like, what the fuck is going on over there? Like,
Oh man.
Yeah, that's just like the duo experience, though. Is
Yeah.
every once in a while it'll just be my lane is it, and junglers are there, level 2, level 3, come back every time a purple respawns, and just gank relentlessly. And it's just sometimes you're just chosen.
you gotta
That sounds
love
like one of those games.
you gotta love when you're playing ADC and you find out that the enemy mid hit level 5 because you just got krakened. It's like, oh, guy, they hit level 5.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that the enemy mid isn't in mid.
Yeah.
You just got krakened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a
Or
combination of the two.
like mid jungle was in mid, and no one called it, and now there's this 4 people in your lane. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's sick. They're like, and then your team's like, you should have placed wards, and you ping the wards because it was too late. Yeah, it's a fun time.
Mhm.
I love ADC.
You speaking of playing AEC, I know you've been on the ranked grind, Dolson. Do you have any games you want to talk about? Anything worth mentioning or?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So we played one of my rank games. We played against Hebo, Ao Kwong, Set, Loki, Giannis. Was their comp, and we lost.
I don't want to play that comp.
It was I was Nike solo. Against Loki. Loki goes Transcendence, drops his fucking circle on the wave and runs around and is just super annoying the entire time. Invis in my jungle, stealing my blues, stealing back farm. Like just beyond impossible to keep up with, and I like try to ward a little deeper. So if he's going towards mid, we had a let me pull up the exact KDA here. We had a Vulcan mid who ended up going 3-17 that game.
Oh God, that is tough.
Our Kabrakan went 2-10. I went
Ooh.
3-6-13. But essentially, that game was so annoying because it felt like it was totally on the other side of the map. But if I remember correctly, our duo tried to triple pull the buffs and died to it, and it gave their set. And it was set Ao Kwang duo lane.
Oh no.
Gave them like free lane pressure, and then they just started like dying on cooldown, and so that lane got out of control. I admittedly like I just could not keep track of this Loki, and so Loki kept running. Loki only went 9-14, so it wasn't my problem, you know. That's how I'm comforting myself with this. I just remember getting relentlessly split pushed. I mean, that's like as pick of a pick composition as there comes, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
Giannis setting portals, opening up portals with his ult, and then a bunch of assassins following that through. And so like it's easy for me to say, man, my Vulcan went 3-17 and like put it there, but there's just only so much a Vulcan can do against something like that, like just suddenly getting relentlessly jumped on. And I'm thinking like surely we outscale at some point, but our Ho Yi ends up at like 8-12 and just gets killed off relentlessly. And I'm a Nike, and so I'm like trying to jump in and provide a big slow and like some peel. Because there's no backline for me to dive because they're all diving my backline. And so I'm diving their dive. And admittedly, that was just a game I had a very hard time positioning myself properly because it felt like I was trying to peel 4 assassins because I was. And then there's a Giannis on the other side of the fight that's just owning. And so that was one of the more frustrating ranked games I've played on my journey because it felt like I couldn't do it. Like there was nothing for me to do almost. And I'm sure I could have played better, but
That's like the classic solo complaint, though, isn't it? Like, there's generally
Yeah, I was gonna
nothing
say
I could have done to help.
that's a solo laner thing right there if I've ever heard one. You have to make your impact early in solo and ranked. I feel like you have to rotate early, otherwise it's just you kind of just watch the game happen.
Well,
yeah, I
and like
watched
he
that game
said,
happen.
like,
Because I was just getting split pushed. The moment he got Transcendence, he could full clear my wave with his circle and then would rotate out. And I'm like Nike trying to like wail away on the minions, and then I can finally like I'm 5 seconds behind on my rotation out, and by then my Vulcan's already been assassinated again or whatever. And I'm pinging. I'm like, yo, they're on their way.
and the difference between
Didn't
the
really
two,
matter.
like a
Yeah.
Loki 2, he doesn't get. I mean, yeah, he's leveling it right to clear, but that's not Loki's how he's going to kill somebody with his 2,
No.
right? He's just clearing it. How's
No.
Nike going to kill somebody? Probably with her 1 or the ult, right? But most
Right.
likely the 1. But you had to use that to clear. So it's even one of them things
Yeah,
that
that was
like
no
even
fun.
after the wave, it's not like you could necessarily fight him per se. Like it just even if you could match the
I
clear, you weren't granted pressure.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember I scrapped a bit early. Like I remember maybe it was like 1 or 2 items in. I felt like I could, just exist in that lane. But yeah, I don't know. And they pulled a bunch of early pyros, and I'd rotate in, and before I know it, I'm portaled, I'm knocked up, I'm stunned, I'm all of the above. That one will live with me for a while because I remember because it's peak confidence to despair over the course of like 30 minutes where I'm thinking, there's no way I lose to quad assassin Giannis comp. They're so squishy. Surely we just delete them all. And then 40 minutes later in my life, I'm head in hands wondering where everything went wrong.
Yeah.
So that was sort of aggravating. I did win a game on Izanami. I like Iza just simply because I can turn my brain off in lane a little bit. I 2 and I auto the wave and then I walk away. You know what I mean? Like I just don't have to
Mhm.
think about it.
Yeah.
100%
But
Diamond Isa
what I
for that
learned,
reason.
that's right. And look, if I'm not feeling super confident in my laning phase or whatever, I'm like, I'm just gonna slam Iza. I'm gonna 2. I'm gonna auto. I'm gonna walk away, and it'll be fine. But I played against I think Jabalanke that game, who went ability style build. I think he went like trans into Crusher, Jotuns, or something like that. It was super annoying because it felt like I would step up to clear the wave, and obviously his like branching attacks would hit me a little bit, and so you do your best to avoid those, and then eventually he got to the point where he just stopped caring, and his darts plus his jump in were enough to like 3/4 health, chunk like half of my health away. And then he ults, and so I don't have the range advantage, and that ended up being just a super obnoxious lane where it didn't feel like I could um, fight very effectively. I guess that's sort of the shortcoming of Izanami sometimes when you're fighting into something like a ability damage Shobalanke. And I just quickly realized my goal is to not die. I'm gonna come out of lane, probably like 2 levels behind. I'm gonna be down, half an item, whatever. But as long as I'm not like feeding this dude relentlessly, I'll be okay. And I do think I'm good at that. If I may lose lane, but I'm not gonna hand over like 9 kills to my lane opponent. I can sit under tower and absorb the wave and do it on cooldown and wait for my jungler to come help with my buff. And that was just one of those games. I said, this is just not gonna happen for me. I gotta sit back. And so it was more frustrating because I couldn't do anything for like 20 minutes in lane because I felt like I was just getting owned. But I realized the rest of the map was going well for my team. And that's like Lermy on Mercury or something, just like absolutely crushing every other. I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? As long as this guy isn't gonna like one shot her when the fights start, like we're gonna end up winning this game. So
That's
I knew my
a
place, and it was
That's been
under my
my
tower.
approach.
Yeah, we've said
to
it a few
ADC
times
as
here.
of late.
Sometimes you have to assume the position, and it's not necessarily fun, but sometimes you got to do it. And if that's what it takes to get your team the victory,
Yeah, I've
I was
been
gonna
what
say
I
that's a skill that a lot of people I feel like don't
Right.
appreciate is the ability to lose with like you have to you have to know how to lose lane.
I
Like,
call it
it happens all
stalling.
the time in solo.
Mm-hmm.
Happens all the time in duo. You have to be able to lose lane, but not like feed. There's a
Right.
fine line.
Yeah,
There is.
I've been telling my teammates that like just let me stall out the enemy ADC. Like, cool, they get a level lead, 2 level lead, that's fine. They're gonna gank me on cooldown, cool. As long as I'm not dying, we're winning that fight like 100% of the time. Like, and then once we get to team fights, I'll do my damage then. But it has been like a frustrating adjustment specifically to this season, like where I didn't feel like I had to do that as much in previous seasons. But right now, the way jungle's designed is like they can gank a lot because of the way the farm is. And honestly, I like that. I think it gives jungle more of a purpose than what they had before, and allows them to have more of an impact just across the map. So I do like that. But it is a different approach to ADC for sure, or what I now call the second solo lane, because that's how it feels right now.
That's right. You clear wave, you fight over shield, and then you wait for the next wave to come in and hang out.
well, I
Is
mean,
that-
if you
do
look
you-
at games
do
like
you know
League, their
what your
dual
plan
lane
on-
is a lot more of a dual lane than Smite has been traditionally, right?
Sure.
Mhm.
Because if I remember correctly, they would like your dual your support. I forget what they call it in that game. I think it's support as well. It hung out for like 15 minutes for a while, and it was like a lot of Smite games. Like by
Back in the day,
10,
yeah.
you're gone. But it's been a minute. I haven't worked with my League of Legends coworker for like 3 years now, so forgive me if I'm a bit out of the loop on that one.
I haven't watched as much pro league as I normally do, so I don't know. But I do like watching some league casts from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, Dolson, have you ever watched how they cast League? Have you ever seen like the clips of them like from behind the scenes casting?
Yeah, I've seen a few of those. And I actually really
it's
enjoy
wild,
them.
dude.
Yep.
It's cool. I was watching with
Go
the
ahead.
3, and they're pointing at each other like
Yep.
as one's voice is dying. And that's one thing I wanted to ask you. Like when you guys are casting, like do you guys do that? Like if you feel like your voice is dying out, like are you pointing at the other guy to take over? Or...
Yeah, we did a little of that at World, specifically the camera thing, because I think production had the camera feed that we were using, like when the casters were up in our little pod. That same feed was just always live if they wanted to pull it, and like we were standing and casting and wanted to like put it in a lower third or whatever. And so we had a couple little clips where we were actually, I think in the promo video we just put out for the seeding tournament. There's like a clip of Trelly and I like jumping around or something like that. I love those. I think seeing the emotion, the actual physical emotion behind the voice is so cool. But yes, we do a lot of, especially at Worlds when the intensity gets a little higher, um, and you want to have your best casts and you're really dialed in. We do a lot of hand communication, which it hasn't come out yet, but I did an interview with the long lane recently, and we were talking about this with COVID and everything that shut down and how it makes things more difficult. Um, and one of the things I mentioned in that interview was I always feel, I was able to learn how to cast paladins live in studio with Pretty Hair and Rain Day, who's off doing great things, and Goremizer, and so I was in studio like really there with coworkers, and whether it's subtle hand motions or just reading the body language of the person you're working with, it's so important and such an underappreciated part of casting that makes life easier. And so during that interview, in the long lane interview that'll come out, I talk about how I, especially with COVID, grew to appreciate, the SEC casters, the Albion Giants casters, the collegiate casters who are all casting remote, and you're on Discord with your co-caster, and there's no, you might have your camera on and you can like see the other person while they're casting, but there's no like real interaction there, and you're just trying to read what they're doing based on the intonation of their voice, and it makes it harder to cast that way. And so, with COVID, but now specifically with Worlds and stuff, we're able to do so much of the hand communication and all that. Actually, I was nervous. He never would have taken it. Miff always jokes about how he wants to take my end calls when we cast together. He never would have. In reality, he's a softie at heart, and then he would always let me have that moment. But when the Kings are about to win, I think Stu gets picked like right outside the gates of the Titans base, and then they kill like 3 members, and then they go in, and there's like one last little scrap, and that's when I make the end call. And right between Stu dying and 3 members of the Titans dying, and then the last 2 members of the Titans dying, and ultimately the end call, I needed a breath. Like I blew everything on Stu and everyone getting picked just now, but like the moment's not quite there yet. I'm not calling it over. There's still a couple members of the Titans alive, and I'm giving Myth like really like I somehow he deciphered it, but I'm like shuffling my fingers back and forth, and like I think he just got like, I need 2 seconds. You give me like one quick sentence, and I'll be right back into it. And then right before Sino goes back in at the end there, I'm like telling Myth to give it over, and he cuts off his sentence, and it comes back in, and the end call went off just fine. So that's a really long-winded way of saying yes. We do a lot of like body language and hand communication, and it's super important and helpful, really, to be able to read, the intention and um, direction of your co-caster. And you'd think a lot of it comes from the chair ones, which it does. Like, I'm running out of air, I need you to take this, give it back to me quickly, whatever. Like, if it's a long fight, I'm just telling my dude to take it, and I trust them all to cast it. There are times though where it's actually the flip side, where I'm talking about something in sort of a calm moment, and my chair 2 like sees something or catches something, and he does not want me to move on from it. Like, I'll sometimes get some hand signals from the chair 2 to let me know like what I've just said is what they want to talk about, and it's the important thing to talk about. And so obviously we're not able to literally sit there and discuss with one another all the nuances of casting. Like, all right, man, it's your turn. So like hand signals
Yeah.
are like super important with um any type of casting, yes, but it really comes out in those big moments when the intensity is really high. There's a lot of hand like slow down motion, like we're going way too fast, take a breather type thing. And so it's a way to link up a bit better with the person that I'm casting with to kind of get back on the same wavelength. So for guys like Trelly, I think him and I sort of joked how much he appreciated my hand signals and stuff, especially at Worlds, because he's really starting to get into the swing of things, and he's done really well, but I don't think he's done a lot with like hand signaling and stuff in the past. And so at Worlds, when it really ramped up, he had kind of joked about how much more like comfortable it felt in the moments where like he knows that I need something from him. And I'm very physically vocal with my hands, if that makes sense. I'm
Yeah,
a big hand talker.
yeah.
I like letting my guys know what's up.
I just never thought about it. Like I saw one of their
Yeah.
clips and I was like, dude, all the cast I've had an opportunity of doing is either been by myself or I finally started working with other people, and it's hard to read, especially like when you're a chair two wanting to analyze, and you like, there's no way to be like, hey man, hand it over when you're
Right.
online.
You're right.
And I was like, I was curious. I figured you guys did, but it was just one of those things. I was like, that has to be
It was
a thing that just helps make it just a little bit easier and it's a nice flow to it.
Yeah, it
it was
tightens it up.
very much so on display. What was it, season 6, where you guys had the triple cast for the finals?
Yeah, I don't remember who did that. Might have been
It was
5 when
Aggro,
Splice
Hindu,
won.
and someone
F
else.
dot maybe.
Yeah, it might have been F dot.
If
Yeah.
it was a triple cast
Yeah.
with those 3, that might have been season 5 because I think Aggro and Hindu did season 6. But it's actually a really good point. You know, I was on when they were doing the triple cast. I was just a fan in the crowd and I knew nothing about casting. But now I've really come to learn this, and especially with league casting, I think they did a triple cast for their finals. Between 2 people, it's very important to be able to communicate. Between 3 people, you're doing a lot of juggling. That it's like imperative to be able to hand point and figure out what's going on. It's actually super interesting mechanically how a 3-man is generally structured, where like the chair 1 is strictly doing team fights and objective fights and game ends and sieges, and then the other 2 are basically 2 like chair 2s that just bounce back and forth like during the downtime, and then like if literally neither of them have anything to say, then maybe the chair 1 will come back in. But the mechanics of a 3-man cast totally change, and Hindu and F dot and Aggro definitely had to be on the same page, and a lot of that is hand signaling and just personal chemistry and knowing each other's tendencies and things. That's a whole nother ball game with casting.
Well, I don't know if you had any more games, but we definitely do have some guest questions from the community if we want to get into
Yeah,
that.
sure. No, my ranked grind is a grind, and that's and everyone knows that, and everyone knows what the ranked grind is like. Plenty of ups and downs, but I got nothing specific.
Trying to find.
I have us here. If
Is
you're ready.
Sasquatch is the first one?
Yep, he would be the
Yeah,
first
I'll
one.
let you go off first.
Our fans, well, there's a few of them we're just going to be
Fans.
asking this. So first question from Sasquatch is, what's it like being a guest on Smite's longest running podcast?
It's one of those moments where it really feels like you've made it. It's true. It wasn't
As it
when I
should,
was.
yeah.
No, it is really cool. Jokes aside, it is really cool. I've listened to some of your episodes in the past, especially when I first started and I was trying to just consume as much Smite as possible. Just listening to other people talk about it was very helpful. And I like what you guys do, and it's a lot of fun. I love doing stuff like this, and anything that I can do to interact with the community more is always an easy yes for me. So, jokey answer, it feels like I've now truly made it. Serious answer is it's a lot of fun, and I love doing stuff. And I wouldn't say I'm like hyper picky about the podcast and the interviews that I do. I mean, I've said yes to all but like one, but it is important to me that the stuff I go and do is well done and something that's like good to be a part of, and you guys are clearly that. So it is a lot of fun being here.
Well, we do appreciate
Oh
it.
yeah.
We don't fool ourselves. We know that we're just a tiny little podcast, and that's probably where we'll stay. But it is cool when we have people who are willing to take time out of the day to come on here.
Of course.
Just to clarify too, the only reason I keep on, it's kind of like a joke at this point. The only reason we keep on hammering down like the longest running podcast thing is because I think one of the episodes of Backliners, I want to say, they mentioned that they were the longest running, and so we started like a little Twitter thing. We were like,
there's no way they've
tweeted
only
at
been
him,
going
we were
for
like,
like 2 years or something, right?
Yeah, they said that after like a
Yeah,
year,
they,
and I'm like,
like,
hold
retweeted
the
at it where,
fuck up.
yeah, it became a little thing. So it became like a joke with us. Now it's
Yeah.
like I mentioned it whenever we talk to like someone that works there, anyone like that, we're just like, yeah,
Yeah, right.
the longest running one.
I talk to Aggro a lot, so I'll make sure he knows before they go on to the next Backliners episode.
Next one we have from Coffin Monkey.
Coffin Monkeys.
Yep, and this one's really we need you to put on your thinking cap for. Mr. Dolson, think of the voice lines and how the voices actually sound. Would you rather have a small cuckoo cutesy sticking out of your neck, interfering with your day-to-day life with that super annoying high-pitched voice, or would you rather have Kwai Pop Bassett sticking out of your hand, screaming, hug me, ooh, ooh, constantly every time you were to shake someone's hand?
No, I hate both.
Don't we all?
Yeah, you can answer neither if you want.
This is maybe a bit of a cop-out answer. I think I might choose the handshake one because I don't think I shake people's hands a lot. And so I think I get less exposure to the annoyance. What was it, Bastet on my hand saying that?
Yeah,
Yep, yep.
I think I get
Yeah,
less.
Kawhi.
I get less Bastet weirdness than I would something sticking out of my neck, just like constantly being annoying. Now, if it were like Bastet is always like a hug, a high five, anything like that, then suddenly my exposure is way up. But if it's simply cut off at handshakes, I think I choose that one because that is few and far between for me. And I'll lock that in as my answer.
That's fair.
appreciate
That's fair.
that Dolson takes the answer that way, because every time I get asked a would you rather question by my students, that's the path I take. I'm like,
Right.
which would be the least like impactful to me?
Yeah.
And then that's what I go with.
That's fair.
One
That's
day
fair.
they'll learn.
We got Pete Esports or Pete Sports, Pet Sports, coming in.
Yeah, I never know how to say his name.
Yeah, no one knows how to say it. Coming in and saying, "What's it like being a guest on Smite's longest running podcast?"
It's one of those moments where it really feels like I've made it. Where I casted Worlds Finals a couple months ago, casted my first finals 2 years ago, and that all pales in comparison to a moment like this.
All right, I promised I'd ask twice, but
I was hoping
last time
you would say the exact same thing you said the first time.
I was
So
trying to
people listen to it,
remember exactly what I said, but I
they go, wait, did it like rewind? Like what happened?
right.
Next up, what is deja vu? Again from PE Sports, we have, do you think about Smite in the gym?
No.
What is your favorite workout?
If I need anger and motivation, I will think about Smite in the gym.
think about that jungler that ganked you at level 2.
There's a quad assassin mage game.
There's the dude at the gym who hasn't really watched Smite, but he knows what I do. And so I do think about it when he comes up and asks how work is going. But if I am there alone, plugged in, I am not. I am in my own little zone. So I would say rarely, if ever.
And leaping right off from that, what's your favorite workout song?
My tastes have changed drastically since I started working out. Recently, the like hard style remixes of like pop songs were it for a little while, like Disturbia by Rihanna, like that song remixed has been going crazy. However, my flavor of the month music wise has been big epic versions of like movie and game soundtracks and like big moments. And so the Jedi Temple March like epic version has been what I'm listening to like when I need to hit like a really heavy set. That or like Duel of Fates or something like that. The big orchestral songs have just been hitting a bit different for me recently.
You're speaking my language right now.
That's right.
I'm not gonna lie, I love trap remixes of orchestral songs.
Yeah.
Where they're like, let's just slap a little bass and snare with this. Like, yeah. All right. Last one from Pete. Favorite pasta dish?
I think it's. I mean, the first. I'll just say what first came to mind: chicken piccata. But I don't think that's. I think it can be independent of pasta, but I always eat it with pasta. Just some nice lemony, buttery, capery chicken over a bed of spaghetti noodles is about as good as it gets, in my opinion. If that's not a correct answer, I don't know, a good classic like spaghetti and meatballs or something like that. I don't think you can really go wrong with.
No, not bad, not bad. Next we have Folk Hero. Would you rather do only leg days or only arm days forever?
You know what? Leg day gets unnecessary hate. Um,
Leg day is
that
fun,
said,
man.
that said, I don't love leg day because it hurts. But I think only leg day or only arm day forever. I would rather have disproportionately huge legs than than like just massive. You know, like when SpongeBob inflates his arms and he's walking around looking like that. Um,
Yeah.
if I'm thinking about what makes me feel less bad on a daily basis walking around, I'd rather do legs forever because I think I would just get less bored of those workouts and because I think I would look less ridiculous with just tree trunks and a regular body rather than massive arms and everything else being disproportionately small compared to that. So I'm locking in leg day.
Can I throw in a practical gamer answer?
Of course.
We're gamers. We spend a lot of time sitting. We most likely could probably use the leg exercises over the upper
Yeah, there
body
you go.
exercise.
Yeah.
It's like those dudes. Have you seen those dudes that like inject their arms? I forget what it
Yes.
is, but it's
Like
like,
it's called like
yeah,
synthol or something.
yeah.
It's like mass and
That's
it's
it's just like
weird
a
looking.
massive ball on their
Yeah.
bicep.
Yeah.
No,
It's
dude.
so bad.
No.
Can't
I
be me.
I once
No
was
way.
talking to a bodybuilder, like an actual like bodybuilder dude. This dude was a fucking beast, huge person. Uh, and we've chatted a while, and I asked him what is the biggest problem in his life being that size, and when he told me is that he can't wipe his ass normally. They
Yeah.
like to get too technical, guys, but they can't reach behind themselves. Just literally,
There's
that's
enough
how
way
it
to do
goes. And it's like, you know, that just gave me a different perspective
Get
about them guys became huge and beefy.
Yeah, I'm okay not
get a
being that
bidet.
big.
Yep. So
Unlucky.
back on track to the serious podcasting now.
Yes, right.
And Bright, best pickup line outside of iCast Pro Smite.
First of all, that's about the worst pickup line. if I'm ever cold opening with someone and I say I cast pro video games, I'm in a bad spot. God, this is a tough question. I'm a big fan of like the old middle school. If you were a pirate, which shoulder would you have your parrot on type vibe, where you like, is it this shoulder or this shoulder, and then you put your hand around them. But that's not super like pickup liney.
I would count that.
I might have to just count that. I don't think I've used like a pickup line in in like 10 years. Um
I don't
I
think there's
think
any serious way to use one. I feel
I
like
don't think
if
there
you
is.
No,
I think
use
it's
I
one,
don't
it's
way
got to
too
be a
think so.
easy.
joke.
There's no way.
It's got to be a joke.
Like,
What's
if
the
it
other one of
is,
those?
I want to meet that person. I want them to explain it to me because I just don't. I
Like
don't get it.
the classic, like you remind me of my kitchen table because I'm gonna end up uh
Like
banging my
banging
or
you,
something.
right?
Yeah.
Banging you all over the house or something, right?
Oh no, you remind me of my big toe. That's what it is. You remind me of my big toe
Right.
because I know I'm gonna end up banging you on my kitchen table. There you go.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Oh my god.
that's a classic.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna cop out with the old parrot one. I don't have a good one off the top of my head.
And finishing us out here. Oh, I guess we do got Folk here coming in again. Whoops. I didn't pre-read this one. Hold up. I just had to make sure. Also, can you
Like
one time
super
welcome
mean.
us back to Smite by saying, "Do you listen? You're listening to the smooth sounds of dulcet Dolson."
You want wait? They want me to say that like at the start of an SPL broadcast or like a Smite cast or something?
Yep.
I'm assuming, yeah. I'm assuming like
Um,
after a break or something.
I bet I could get away with that. I've said some silly things on air before. You're listening to the smooth, dulcet
The soothe
sounds,
sounds of dulcet
the
Dolson.
soothe sounds of dulcet Dolson. I'd mess that up so quickly.
What is that even? What is dulcet? What does that mean?
Dulcet
It's
just
like
means like
a
Sound?
smooth and calm sound,
like velvety
relaxing.
almost.
Yeah.
Um,
Gotcha.
I will. You know what? I'm not going to promise that I'll say exactly that, but I could get a little more unhinged with my cast intros this year. There's room for a bit of weirdness in there. I was great at that in like season 8, where like I just say some weird out of pocket stuff to start the cast, and then like just actually get into it. And I fell off a bit in season 9, and so maybe it is time to get back to saying something like ridiculous at the end of the desk when I'm throwing to the casters to like catch them off guard. Um, that might be my brand this year. Is when I'm on desk and I'm throwing to the casters, something pertaining to Smite still, but something that catches them off guard just to mess with my coworkers. And so maybe Dulcet Dolson comes out,
Maybe dulcet Dolson.
but I've at
Yeah.
least taken inspiration to get a little bit more silly.
All right.
They give
I
us
like it.
decent leeway with like, as long as we're not saying anything fireable, we can have fun with it. Is
As
the
long
way
as you're
that
not
we look
betting
at it.
against the whole Twitch chat for $5, you know.
Right. He still owes a lot of people a lot of money.
So
Wait a
much.
minute. Did someone do that?
Yeah, Mifflin
Yeah,
did.
Mifflin.
So what was it?
Mifflin bet
Was he
against
trying to
Twitch.
predict
Yeah, he was
picks and
predicting.
bets?
I know he was predicting the set win. I think
That's right.
that's what it
He
was.
said, "I bet
Yeah,
everyone
he
in
bet.
chat right now $5 that so and so is going to win this set," and then they did not.
Oh god, dude.
What's funny is we did a $5 off coupon for like an apparel
We did.
partner like that.
That was funny. When y'all did that, I was like, this is never gonna be letting go. Like he's gonna live. This is gonna be here for a couple seasons.
No,
Unfortunately
that
for
comes
him.
up like once or twice a year now.
That's
All
so
right. We
funny.
miffed up. All right. So closing us out, we got our 2 co-hosts that aren't here. First off, we have Nev saying, "Hi, Dolson. I'm sad I can't be there. I'm the short one you took a picture with at Worlds." And then when you guys post a link to the tweet.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I do
thanks.
remember Nev. I did take a lot of pictures with a lot of short people, but I do remember meeting Nev specifically.
There you go.
Very kind.
Anyways, thanks for being here. What was the most exciting play/set you've casted and why? And then there's the second part. I'll wait for your answer here.
Oh God. You'd think I'd have a better, more prepared answer to this question. I mean, the easy answer is either of the 2 finals, Leviathans or Kings winning. Kings would probably win because it was live with a crowd with fans. Some of like the promotional tournament stuff is really fun because there's like so much weight on those matches, and either you're going to the SPL or you're not for a year. I'll stick with my Kings finals just this past Worlds as favorite / memorable / maybe not as intense because it was pretty quick, but yeah, I'll stick with that one.
And part 2, what do you do when you need to fill the silence?
The good news is I hate silence in my like daily life conversations, and so I've gotten really good at just saying whatever's on my mind. That actually, it's very easy. There's not much silence or downtime at Worlds because literally every little thing you can nitpick and talk more about, and so like Worlds casts are super easy to just kind of keep things flowing. What can get tough is like a middle of the year SEC, like Thursday morning, week 3. Like there's not serious implications on the line, and the games are really long. Those are the ones where sometimes, like if my brain and my co-casters' brains are just like a little turned off that morning, um, you kind of got to force things. I'm okay with letting casts breathe every once in a while. You take a beat instead of just spewing out something completely random. My default though, if it's truly about to get silent and I've got nothing, my co-caster has nothing, I will just reset and recap the state of the game and talk about the two teams that we've got matching up. Remember this is seed number whatever versus whatever. I try to make it somewhat important. Whoever wins this one moves one spot closer to the seeding that will get him into the tournament, whatever.
Start asking to look at
So
graphs and things.
Right. If it truly is about to get silent, I will zoom way out and just totally reset and buy, hopefully, time for something to happen. Because in some of those games, I remember, the EUSEC, they're really, really good at Smite, but some of their games really have dragged on in the past. They picked it up during the LAN stuff, picked up their pace a bit, but I can remember casting, a 40-minute EUSEC game with like 3 kills. And I'm like, we have talked about every build. We've talked about every rotation that may or may not have happened. We've talked about what comp is better at this point in the game anyway. And still, like, nothing is really broken open. And that's when we have a little leeway. If I can't recap because we've already done that, I'll just start joking around, which has gotten us into trouble sometimes. But, yeah, I'll zoom out and sort of just recap where everything is, and if that is run dry, then I'll pull the ripcord and just start messing around with whoever's co-casting with me.
Well, a lot of times, even some of the triggers you're going for are something as small as like they didn't buy the item you were expecting, they didn't place the ward where you would expect, or something along that lines.
You could always tell whenever FDOT was casting if there was a lull in the game, because he would take a step back. You go, we're 22 minutes into this game, and this is happening. And then it was suddenly nothing else happened after that. You go, so what's your take on hot dogs?
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. That's the formula. And I avoid that entirely with any meaningful game ever. I never default to like joking around. But when we cast as much Smite as we do, I've got to have a blank check to like every once in a while for some of the lower impact games to just like let my brain breathe for a minute. And I would make an argument. This is a bit of a soapbox, but I'll keep it a quick soapbox. I would argue there are some times where it's more entertaining for the casters to mess around and joke around a little bit and have some fun than whatever like actual Smite game is going on, if it's like just super no action and teams are just happy to farm for 30 minutes.
100%.
Ultimately, my job is to entertain, and if the game is just super slow and super boring, I don't love like, I always feel weird coming off a cast where I've been a little loopy. Like, I always feel kind of like, all right, I didn't really do my best work there, but I do recognize that every once in a while, the right play is to actually have a little bit of fun with it. So yeah, I think I just kind of try to read the room and go from there.
Well, you say your job is to entertain, but it's almost more to make sure that someone is entertained, right? And if the games aren't doing it, that's when you step in, right?
Yeah.
Not to like talk down on the games, but like we've all been in 10-minute farm fest. They're just not exciting. Yep. So
you're totally right. I agree.
Lastly,
at the end of the day, too, you guys are also personalities. Like we, like, as a viewer, like we obviously we want a good viewing experience and good casting and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we also want like you guys to be yourselves. So
yeah,
that's part of the reason why we like the casters, is because like otherwise we could have like a robot doing it, like, oh, this happened, and like that's it.
Chat GPT is
you guys
take my job.
Yeah. AI is coming for it.
That's right.
So we got Depp coming in with 3 questions. Number 1, do you have a penta?
Yes. I have like 2 actual Conquest pentas. I have an Artemis penta in Conquest. I have like a handful of Arena pentas. My numbers are weird though because it was one of those arena pentas where I get the penta and then they respawn and each person I kill after that is another penta. And so my account says that I've got like 12, but I think I have like 4 or 5 like true actual pentas, I think. One was on Vimana. Crit build Vimana, and I felt real good about that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Nice.
talking. That's fun.
Well, his question 2 was what god in game mode, so you already got that down. And number 3, would you cast yourself getting said pentas for us as you remembering it happening?
Oh my god. I'm gonna blow some eardrums if I really do this.
Yeah.
Maybe for your sake and your viewers' sake. Oh man.
Yeah, you don't. I
You
would say
could
you don't
just
need
say
to.
no.
I'm trying
You
to
can
I'm trying to
skip.
remember the moments. I might skip just for your ear's sake, because you know I will yell, but it's just that's not a fun experience for anyone. Just imagine me yelling and screaming indescribable words. One of them's posted somewhere, actually somewhere down in my retweets, and I punched my chair and it tipped over. So
You Cubo Fred your chair.
Cubo Fred
I
did my
will
chair.
see.
Let's go, dude.
Listeners, I will see if I can find that and get it sent to Depp to get that clip.
It's not too far down in my retweets. It's findable.
I don't know. I don't know if you guys have questions of yourself. I have two. If you want to do mine.
Ask away.
One of them's kind of dumb. One of them's like actual serious question. I'll do the dumb one first. So I'm West Coast,
Mhm.
and so I feel like I get because I queue on West Coast servers, and so depending on time of day and whatnot, I end up running into a lot of the same people in my queues.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a duo queue running around. I'm not sure if it's been brought up to you.
Is it the
There's
beefy
a
arms and the meaty legs?
It is the
Yeah,
Dolson's
dude.
beefy arms and Dolson's meaty legs duo queue running around terrorizing the conquest scene on West Coast.
They
I've
run East Coast too from time to time because I have them in the names of the week.
Nice. I met them at Worlds actually. I met the I met the duo. And I'm very glad to say they seem like good humans, you know, if people are running around with like beefy arms and meaty legs with my name attached to it and they're like hella toxic, I'm a little worried about it. But it seems like they're
Yeah.
actual like down to earth guys. And so I am familiar, and because people will run into them in the lobbies and like send me pictures on Twitter and stuff sometimes, and I find it hilarious. And it was really cool meeting them at Worlds. I was probably more excited to meet them than they were to meet me. A standout moment in my career.
It's funny. And then I also have a second one, a more serious one. I was gonna say like what's something that people don't get to see when it, as far as like the life of like being a caster and everything. And like my example is kind of like you watch sports and you know like athletes, right? We see what they do on the field and that's kind of like what most fans see, but we don't get to see like them waking up at 3 a.m, training all day,
Right.
like all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Like what's something that people don't get to see that like goes into being a caster?
Yeah, I'd think that it's probably obvious, but there is a lot of work and self reflection that goes on with this type of job where we obviously sit down. We do VOD review as a team a few times a month, and so we'll critique ourselves as a group. But a big thing that requires hurdling, and this was hard and still can be hard for me, is being okay with critiquing from the community, knowing how to like exist on an internet basis where everyone can kind of voice their opinion on you and the way you do things, and being able to filter through a lot of that and actually pluck out the stuff that is meaningful and um worth changing rather than, just a guy I might have talked bad about his favorite team once and then now suddenly he just like can't stand to listen to me and always, that happens. And so sifting through a lot of that um can be difficult, but it's the type of job where you'll get feedback from your team and that's the most meaningful feedback you'll get. But so much of it has to be self-driven where say I get up, go to the office, we do our mic checks, things like that. I get off my cast, and if I'm feeling like I didn't hit my mark that day, and to anyone out there, it might have sounded like a totally normal, a totally fine cast, but like there's just something in my brain that just didn't feel right. Um, Getting to the bottom of that can often involve going home, immediately listening back to the cast, and I hate doing that because I hate my voice, but like it's such a necessary part of getting better and um, breaking bad tendencies. And so, there's not much mystery around. We get up. Our call times are at 10 usually. If the broadcast starts at 11, do our work, head home. But because we cast so much Smite, there's not a lot of built-in work hours to self-critiquing, self-improvement, team improvement. And so we have to find that time oftentimes on our own, or if we have like off days, we'll try to schedule like cast or VOD review. But in the same way, to your point, traditional sports players will sit and watch film. Coaches talk about sitting on their couch with the iPad out watching the game film. I don't go to that extreme with it, but a lot of the time that we're not at the studio, there's content planning, video planning, self-critiquing going on, and that's the only way I've really found that I'm able to kind of consistently improve and not just be happy with where I'm at. Just not it's not easy. It's not super fun. Again, just because I hate how I sound, but like I hate like the literal sound of my voice. I don't think anyone loves it.
Yeah, I will say all of us nodded when you say I hate the sound of my voice. All of us were
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah, I don't listen to any episodes that I'm in.
I also
It's
And
do
just
getting
not.
seems
over
weird.
that was hard. Like
Yeah,
sitting down and being like, all right, I gotta listen to the words I'm saying and not the tone that I'm using to say them, unless I'm like casting a team fight or something and I need to listen to tone. But getting over how annoying I think I sound was problem one.
For sure. You guys have anything for him, or are we gonna?
yeah. I got two questions.
Right.
One Smite related, one not. The Smite related one is like, for like pre-cast, do you
Yep.
have like certain songs, certain thing you do like instead like pre-game ritual, but it's
Right.
pre-cast ritual? You got anything like specific?
For my worlds casts, yes. Finals, I'll look a little prima donna-y and I'll be walking around with like my headphones on, just kind of like in my own zone before finals. Throughout the year, like the regular SPL games, I haven't gotten nervous for that type of stuff in a little while. I've just got to I'm not a huge coffee drinker, so if I'm tired, I've got to make sure that I do get some caffeine in me at some point. I like the least amount of chaos in my mornings as possible. If I can sit in the green room, scroll through social media for a little while, watch TikTok, drink coffee, and then go cast, that's like an ideal scenario. If I'm at Worlds, and I feel like I need to kind of lock in and tune everything out, I'll throw the headphones on, and it's honestly the same music that I listen to at the gym is what I just listened to pre-cast. Um, and because in those moments I have gotten not nervous in the sense that I didn't think I could do it because I know I'm capable, but like anxious to get it started. And if I just sit there twiddling my thumbs, it's gonna like take me over. And so at Worlds, I'll listen to a lot of music, but I have a very boring precast routine the other 99% of the year where I don't want too much food in my belly and I don't want to be too amped up. I just coffee, light breakfast, and let her rip.
That's how I'm with coaching. Like I can't eat. Like before I go out and coach, like
Right.
I don't care how long a track meet is. Like I'm like the other day I had a Snickers and then like 7 hours later I got to eat food because I just can't. Like it's like one of those things where I just get
Right.
too much energy going. The other question is who do the Bengals need to sign, man? Free agency or
Um,
draft picks? Who do they need to get? Because I love watching Joe Burrow,
yeah.
man.
They signed Orlando Brown from the
They
Chiefs,
did.
Pro Bowl tackle, which I'm happy. Let Joe cook. That's my vibe. Um, I think it's time for Mixon to be done in Cincinnati. I think he carries too much money on his contract, and it's time to let him go. And so I think it's actually I'm in a mindset where I want to cut Mixon, and if Bijan Robinson somehow drops to us, I don't mind taking him in the first round. If he does not, I don't mind taking a poke at like one of the running backs in the second or third or fourth round, because it's such a pass talented offense.
Yeah.
If you can get a back that can catch the ball and scramble a little bit, it doesn't have to be like world class. And you look at a lot of teams that have made it deep into the playoffs and won Super Bowls. They either have veterans on really cheap deals at running back,
Mm-hmm.
or they have rookies who are on rookie deals at running back, and it is a part of their offense that they don't have to worry about paying. So I would like Mixon has been a great emotional leader for the Bengals, but I think he just suddenly is going to start costing too much when you consider Burrow and Higgins and Chase
Yeah.
and offensive line help that we're bringing in. So I think offloading running back money and bringing in a cheaper contract, hopefully still a talented running back, but one that's not going to cost us as much as Mixon wants, would be my first priority. We also lost both of our safeties, and we
Yeah.
just signed
Yeah.
one.
I was gonna
So
mention what about DBs because you guys lost like
right,
both your starters.
Awuzie was hurt last year, but he's coming back. We signed Eli Apple, and he exists.
He's all right. Yeah.
He's a
Sometimes.
polarizing figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like I don't mind paying for offense and then drafting on defense. I think we have some rookie guys on defense who will step up. And we drafted D back a couple. We drafted a safety and a cornerback in the draft last year in rounds 1 and 2, and so hopefully they'll. I think the front office foresaw Jesse Bates wanting too much money and Von Bell maybe being too expensive to keep around. So I think they've had a plan, and we just signed one of the Rams starting safeties, and so I think
Mm-hmm.
they'll slot in somewhat nicely. Um, so I think my most glaring want is saving money in running back and applying it to offensive line and defensive help is my dream come true, which is why they won't do it.
Yep.
Maybe I'll make me sad.
I'm a Vikings fan. I get it, man. We're paying
Right,
Kirk Cousins like so much money. I'm like, please, like, can we get some defense? That's all I
right,
want. I'm not
right.
asking for a
I'm
lot
a,
here.
a Colts fan, man. It just sucks.
Yeah.
We suck.
Yeah.
We'll turn around. Look, the Bengals had. I'm about to turn 28. They had not won a playoff game in 31 years going into the season 2 years ago. I had not been alive to see a playoff win.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were plenty of dark days in high school and in college for me as a Bengals fan.
I
There,
love all
there are
this
brighter days ahead.
optimism, but
There are
I'm from
brighter days ahead.
Michigan. We have the
Yeah, say
Lions.
Fro lives in Michigan, so
So
You know what? Regardless, every NFL team, they're going to have their ups and downs. I'm sticking with the optimism. It's the way
Yeah.
they'll hit in the
Yep.
draft and suddenly they'll have great years. I'm hoping they sign Burrow to a 10-year, $500 million contract, and I don't have to worry about quarterback for the next 10 years of my life. That would be a dream.
That'd be pretty
boy, wouldn't
sick.
that be nice, huh?
I
Not having to
felt
worry about
bad
a
for
quarterback
Riggs,
every year.
dude.
That's crazy.
This
Yeah.
man's a Colts fan. They were up 28-0 or whatever, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna hear so much
Oh
from
yeah.
Riggs.
We
And
don't
then
we don't have to talk about that game.
and then a couple hours later, things went drastically different. I don't even think
Yeah,
I
dude.
DM'd you about it. I was just like, I'm gonna leave him alone.
No. Biggest NFL comeback in history. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
dude.
We love that. We love that.
Oh.
But yeah, Fro, do you have any questions or I know we're running
I
a little long.
do not have any questions in particular. He's already answered quite a few of them.
Yeah, sorry, I talk a lot.
No, you're
Oh,
good.
you're
I mean,
good. You're
luckily
good.
this
my
is a
simple answers
podcast.
go long. Right. No, I know, but the simple questions I still somehow find a way to stretch into like 10-minute answers. And so I always end up feeling a little bad.
Well, I mean,
You're
if
good.
you
We talked
remember
about
before we
orange juice and
started, and Riggs
sausage
is
for
like,
20 minutes last week.
Fair.
if you remember when
They
we
listen to
started,
us every week. They don't give a fuck about us.
Fair enough.
They want to
No,
hear
they
you.
do. That's why they listen every week. It's because they care about you guys, you know? If they didn't care about you guys, they wouldn't be listening every week. That's how you got to think about it.
Fair.
True.
Fro, you have the thank yous lined up? Or,
no, I
you need me
didn't
to
have them
vamp?
ready because I'm just never prepared for this ever. So I'm gonna vamp like I do, but which I'm getting pretty good at vamping because it's always past me and I'm not ready. Thank you to all of our wonderful patrons: Ariel Steel, Asbestos Dog, Bria, Chia Pet, Weatherman Keith, Jade Flagon, Baseball Griff, Bombi, Danny Boy, Caveman, Neo, Coffin Monkey, City Arlets, Gilly, Snorlax Weatherman, Audio, Sir Ember, K-Bro, Joe Famous Freak, Stoffmeister, Backlash, Saydowns, Dr. Godfucker, Lantern, Reese, Warlord, Joe, Bats Kid, Echo Dunk, Doc, Necro Joe, Necros, Otter Joe, Riggs, Dracon, Glen Wiggle, Granite Boys, Camel Void. God damn it, I did that last week too. Camel Hoss, Void vs. Void, Enbright, Sloppy Satch, Scion, Geminon. I'm just failing. Scion, Gemini, Batman, Sandman, Aquasoft, Kilowatt Man, I'm a Hater, Mr. Man, Colorado, Amberbug, Folk Hero, and the Big Red. Thank you all very, very much for helping us improve our podcast. We do have.
I just thought about why do we have
Blaze McDaddy? What? Go ahead.
Why do we have the dyslexic guy read that? I just thought about
Oh my
that.
god, dude.
I've brought this up
I
before,
feel bad.
but
Yo, bro, you sent it to me. I want to see if I can read through it in one take, not taking a breath.
Oh, we'll
it's
do that
getting
after.
long enough where it's a bit of a challenge. But yeah,
that's what
Riggs,
wanna do.
I have brought this up. Why do we have the legitimate dyslexic person read this every week? But, anyways, yeah, Blaze McDaddy's got his brand new mic set up now. Whoop whoop. Thank you, patrons.
Thanks, peeps. Appreciate it. I finally got the settings right, so it shouldn't be weird this week.
I mean,
Hell
you
yeah.
say that, but something's going to be fucked up. Because anytime we mention how our audio is going to be good this week, it just
on Audacity
utterly
last
gets
week,
tanked
Every
somehow.
time I spoke, there'd be a little like sine curve afterwards. For my math fans out there, there's not many, but that's okay. And it made me concerned. But this week, the pop filter I bought came in and we're good.
The little tail at the end?
Yeah.
Is that just a gate kick? Anyways.
Yeah, we got it. We fixed it. It's okay.
We fixed it. It's all good.
Dolson, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any plugs you would like to? You stream now. You're grinding to diamond, Dolson to diamond, as
Yeah,
you might
Dolphin and
say.
Diamond. We're almost there. I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's gonna be a dog that catches its tail, and I might not want to play ranked ever again. Like I did it. I shoved it. I slammed ranked once, and now I'm like done forever. That could happen, or I could get addicted. One of the two. Yeah. I mean, if people want to watch me stream, it's Dolson Live, same as my Twitter. Really, just thanks to the community for being a great community, and excited to get casting some SPL Smite soon, just around the corner. It'll be a great year here in season year 10X. I'm covering all my bases.
There you go. Nailed it. Yeah, that's on the 31st, right? Is SPL kickoff?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll get to see Dolson cast in some games again. And yeah, I think that about does it for this one. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Links will be in the description,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Yeah, that.
Boy.
Bye.